Welcome to Beyond D&D. This is Corbin, and today we'll be discussing Mage the Awakening. Mage the Awakening is a standalone RPG in the Chronicles of Darkness setting. It centers around magic-wielding humans that are kind of like wizards from D&D if they could craft their own spells on the fly. Just to clarify, I will be only covering Mage the Awakening 2nd Edition. I'm not familiar at all with the differences from Mage 1st Edition or from the old World of Darkness game line Mage the Ascension. Additionally, I'm only slightly familiar with Mage the Awakening, so some of the information I give you might just be very generalized and basic, but that's good for an introduction, I think. From the perspective of a mage, there is the fallen world, which is our mundane real world, and then there is the supernal world, which is the supernatural real world that's hidden behind the mundane one. Basically, the world's the matrix and mages can see the code. A mortal goes from sleeping in the fallen world to becoming aware of the supernal world by awakening, which is sort of like sleepwalking through reality until you discover a watchtower, which is a supernatural construct that can take any shape, really. If you don't accept the watchtower, you are stuck as a sleeper. Because of the nature of this fallen world, anyone who is a sleeper can't remember magic. Even if a mage kills their entire family with a fireball, the sleeper will remember only that the mage killed their family, but then they'll come up with an explanation as to what actually happened. Perhaps they remember the mage causing a gas leak or using a flamethrower. There is a lot to go into with how mages work mechanically, but the main components you really need to know are Wisdom, Arcana, Path, and Order. Wisdom is how restrained your mage is. Essentially, a high wisdom mage will use magic only when they have no other choice, and a low wisdom mage will use magic whenever they feel like. Being at 0 wisdom makes your character become mad, leaking magical energy all over the place without any way of stopping it. Arcana are types of magic a mage can use. Path is what type of mage you are, and is based on which of the watchtowers you interacted with when you awoke. Order is the overarching organizations of mages that you subscribe to. It's kind of like a political party. The Arcana are broken down into death, fate, forces, life, matter, mind, prime, space, spirit, and time. Essentially, when you cast a spell, you say which arcana you're going to use. For instance, if you want to transform a pencil into a diamond, I'd use the matter arcana. Or if you wanted to figure out who someone's parents are, I'd use the space arcana. I could also use the mind arcana to search their memory for that information. So spells can be very versatile. And while there are spells written down in the book, the game allows players to come up with their own spells on the fly. If you can think of it, it's up to the game master to try and figure out what modifiers need to go into effect so that you can pull it off. Path is the type of mage you are. They're each broken into specialties with certain arcana, but you aren't limited to those. It should be noted that witch and warlock are both gender-neutral terms here, and that the stereotypes I give here aren't true for every mage that falls into that typing. Arcanthus are stereotypically the go-with-the-flow type people. They might not have a lot of cash on them, but that's because when they need something, they can usually make it appear as if by coincidence. Mystigos are stereotypically know-it-alls. They use their magic to read people's minds and bypass social interactions. Moros are stereotypically very clinical. They might use their magic to analyze both the soul and material components that they find. Obrimos are stereotypically the most like wizards. They might use their magic to enchant items and throw fireballs. Now this Now this path I'm gonna just call the shaman. They are typically very spiritual. They might use their magic to commune with nature spirits or try to heal people. They're kind of like a mix of a druid and a cleric, in my opinion. Though spirits are not just limited to nature spirits. It could be a spirit of a cell phone or a spirit of surveillance. The pentacle is made up of 5 orders, but 4 of those are more closely allied to one another. They are known as the diamond. I'm not an expert in mage, so please bear with me here. The diamond are probably the oldest orders in the pentacle. They are made up of the Adamantine Arrow, Guardians of the Veil, Mysterium, and the Silver Ladder. The Adamantine Arrow focuses on the self, and are likely to reward individual accomplishment. Guardians of the Veil are more focused on protecting other mages. The Mysterium is focused on research and intellectual pursuits, and the Silver Ladder is focused on helping sleepers become mages. The Free Council is its own separate entity. They're kind of like Anarchs from Vampire the Masquerade. They believe that the fallen world and the supernal world can live in harmony. They don't want to reinforce the fallen world's lie, but they also don't want to see it destroyed. The mundane world was what every mage saw before they awoke, and mages still have to live in it whether they want to or not. Mages of different paths and orders form groups called cabals. They're dedicated to joint investigation of the supernatural. Note again that not everything supernatural is supernal, but everything supernal is supernatural. So a mage might find a vampire or a werewolf and want to investigate them, but they will recognize them as entities outside of the supernal world. If a vampire attacks a sleeper, the sleeper is still going to remember. However, if a mage attacks a sleeper, the sleeper is going to forget that magic was used. The main antagonists in Mage are the Seers of the Throne, who work for beings that created the fallen world, called the Exarchs. Their mission is to keep people from turning into mages. Why? Probably because they want to keep the power for themselves. A good introduction to Mage might start with freshly awakened mages being asked to be representatives of the Pentacle inside a city that doesn't have many mages in it. Then they can investigate strange happenings. The best thing about mages is that they're kind of wired to be interested in figuring things out, so they lend themselves to investigation games quite easily. They also might want to kill any supernatural creatures killing sleepers. If you wish to know more about Mage the Awakening, I highly suggest the Occultist Anonymous podcast. It does a great job of introducing new players to Mage, and I have to say they do an excellent job with it. You can find the links to it in the description below. And that was Mage the Awakening. Thank you so much for getting this far. Hit the like button below if you think this helped you, and post a comment if you have any suggestions or corrections. I definitely didn't cover everything with Mage the Awakening. I've only ever played a one-shot online with a group of random people, so I'm not as familiar with it as other systems. But I hope this really helped you and that you can go forward and be more confident in playing Mage the Awakening. Thank you so much and have a good one.